Welcome to Rising Tide Startups, where today's most exciting startup founders share their stories and strategies. They also deliver tangible lessons learned along the way that you can apply to your own startup. Each episode is a true masterclass. Make sure you take notes. Take it away, Kevin.
This is Kevin Pruitt with another episode of Rising Tide Startups, and my guest today is Sam Jacobs. Sam, thanks for joining us all the way from WeWork today.
Well, thanks for having me, and I'm excited to be here. Yeah, glad to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure having you on the pod today. But before we get started, like if you and I met at a networking event, how would you introduce yourself?
Well, I would say, hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. My name's Sam. I'm the CEO and founder of Pavilion. Pavilion is a community of 10,000 go-to-market professionals all over the world who come together to help each other unlock and achieve their professional potential, which is a way of saying that we've built a global community of 10,000 folks, all of whom are in sales, marketing, customer success, and operations. And we build and train them through Pavilion University, online courses, and other in-person events to help people get better at their jobs and do better work. So,
I mean, just based on that intro alone, I'm thinking this is EO meets Wikipedia or something like that. Is there like the two of them had a baby?
That's not a terrible way to put it. I think what it is it's YPO or EO or one of these old kind of legacy networking and community support businesses, or Vistage, right? It's all of these businesses, but it's just digital first. I think that EO is great, and they got thousands and thousands and thousands of members, and YPO is great, but they weren't born in the internet era. And a lot of the folks, because we have people that are members of EO and members of Pavilion, and they'll say, well, it's just a different kind of person, because everybody within Pavilion tends to work at a venture capital backed company, or a company that might be public but was venture capital backed. And when you're in EO, it's still awesome, but you might be sitting next to the president of the local Coldwell Banker franchise, and the local guy from Northwestern Mutual that sold you your life insurance, or gal. Which is nothing, that's fine. But this is a more diverse from a DNA perspective, but homogenous from a career perspective.
That's kind of where I had the Wikipedia DNA that had to speak into that. But so it is really interesting, and I know that I kind of checked out another interview you had done, and I understand that you went to university I'm guessing about 60 miles from where I'm sitting right now at University of Virginia.
I did go to the University of Virginia, which today makes it a bit sad, but yeah, I graduated in 1999.
So one of maybe the finest state institution in the country, as judged by many
by Virginia residents,
as many UVA professors. That's right. But,
where are you, Kevin?
It's a great school. I'm actually in Richmond, Virginia.
Oh, so cool. Of course, yeah.
Just on the west side, 64. Even pointing towards Charlottesville. So
exactly, head on 64 west, and you'll be there in a jiffy.
Right on 64. That's exactly. I'm a driver 9-iron probably from 64. But so it's really interesting just to kind of hear this. What has been birthed today, and even kind of iteration 2.0 out of the initial stage of the company. But tell us a little bit about kind of the serendipitous journey. I mean, what I understand, there was a little music entree in the history there that you kind of got your maybe earned your stripes in.
Yeah, well, and also close to where you are right now. So, back in 1999 and 2000, I graduated from UVA. It was the first .com boom. I moved to New York. All my friends were musicians. I wanted to start a record label to support them. I had this idea. What I really wanted to do was go back to college, but I needed to create a context, a pretense for it. So we rented a farmhouse in Keswick, Virginia, which is, on the east side of Charlottesville towards Richmond. Yeah. And we're gonna, live together in a commune and, write amazing music and do all kinds of fun stuff. And I got down there and realized that my friends weren't that good at music. Which was problematic, of course. Trying to get started in the record industry. But and that was my first foray into entrepreneurialism, and that didn't work out so well. But after that, I went back to New York and I worked at startups for 15 years. and increasingly senior roles. And two things happened as I became more senior in my career. One of them was that I kept getting fired. So, and my tenure kept shrinking. 7.5 years at the first spot, 4.5 years at the next spot, 18 months, 9 months, and 10 months. So I got,
and the last one was 2 days.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
Well, now I'm back on it because I work at a company that cannot fire me for all intents and purposes. Thank God. But my tenure kept shrinking while the skills required to be good at the job kept changing and expanding, because all of these jobs, chief revenue officer, that is a role, that's a title that's probably 15 years old at most. And there's no common job description for every single thing you're supposed to know how to do. Certainly the CEOs and the founders of high growth companies and tech startups, they definitely don't know what you're supposed to do. All they know is that, they hope that you help them make money.
Yep.
And so I started bringing people together to share best practices in an EO kind of way, in a YPO kind of way, group therapy. Let's all talk about what our common challenges and problems are over a meal. And that we gave it a name. We called it Revenue Collective. I started working on that 8 years ago. And then, and I got a new book coming out, so I should make sure I mention that. It's actually out this week. It's called Kind Folks Finish First. And it's all about this journey. And this journey really began in earnest on Friday, the 13th of October, 2017. So about 5 years ago. And that was the second to last time I was fired from a company called the Muse. And that was when I just decided I needed to get off the merry-go-round. I needed to start moving in a single direction that wasn't in a circle. And so that was when I decided to turn what was then called Revenue Collective, but is now called Pavilion, into a business. And so I started charging dues, and I sold some sponsorships, and I started working on it first part-time during 2018. And then about 4 years ago, almost to the day, I started working on it full-time. And, and the rest, I don't know if it's been history, but it's been successful. We've got about 10,000 members all over the world. We've got communities in every major city. Definitely have a few folks in Richmond. Definitely have a few folks in Charlottesville. And and we've really become is a training platform. We really help make sure that people have the skills they need to be good at their job.
So before I kind of dive into Pavilion and I mean, the things that I'm picturing in my mind is like LinkedIn learning on steroids, type, or maybe with a better support, system on back.
You're pretty good at these metaphors that you're grabbing. That works for me.
I can't operate any other way. That's, everything's an imagination. But so it's interesting. You said I kept getting fired from these jobs. Now, there are two reasons that historically that I see that people get fired. One is that, you're just difficult. You just tell over and over again, you're just difficult. The second is that your DNA just may be wired. There's another famous podcast out there that talks about just being unemployable, because the way you're wired, you're wired as an entrepreneur, you're wired as a self-starting, individual that doesn't like artificial constraints, I guess is a good way to put it. You like the creativity of being able to kind of chart your own course and assume the risk of that, and they're being fine with, I'm okay with the risk. It's a risk reward system. I'm okay. I understand the circumstances. So where do you fit in that spectrum?
I mean, you're describing my life. So
the difficult side or the
both. I think there's definitely a relationship between being difficult and unemployable. No, that's, the worst kind of that second kind of person, which was me, right? See, here's the thing about working for a company by definition, right? When you work for a company, especially as an executive, you work in service of the CEO's vision, right? Especially if they're the founder. Like that's the job. They're the boss, and you work in service of their vision. And if you have a problem with that, that's not really their problem. That's your problem.
Yep.
And so it was my problem. We've all been in relationships sometimes, maybe where you're with your partner and you feel like they just want to fight. They don't want to resolve it. They're not leaving, and they're not happy staying. They want to stay and be unhappy. And that was me, where it's like, if you don't like the situation that you're in because you think you're smarter than the CEO, that's great, Sam. Go start a company. But if you're not going to do that, then put a smile on your face and stop being such a stick in the mud.
Yeah.
And, or other phrases that are not as nice. And so pain in the ass might be one. So that was my level of maturity. That was the evolution that needed to happen, which is I went in there a little bit like a little bit of a spoiled brat in some ways, saying, hey, I think I'm, smarter and better. And it's like, okay, if you think you're smarter and better, and get the smirk off your face, get the eye rolls, like lose all of that stuff, like just be a team player. And so when I came to that realization, when you're young, you blame all your problems on other people, and at some point you realize that your problems are largely of your own creation. And that was what happened to me. I realized that, I realized what I'm saying, that either I needed to do my own thing or I needed to suck it up. And and to your point, I have a big people say it's a risk to start your own company, but exactly to your point, for me, it was a much bigger risk every single day walking into somebody else's company, worried, because at some point, like, there's, you feel like an abused animal, in the sense that, like, you start to see the signals, and then you are like, maybe I'm going to get fired today. Maybe I'm going to get fired today because, the warmth is shifted and you're not getting quite as much support, and the CEO is a little bit more distant. And then you want to think that you're just paranoid and that you're skittish, and then then you get fired, and then you realize you weren't paranoid, you were just perceiving reality. So at any rate, to your long-winded answer, but I think I'm effectively unemployable, which is, now I'm in this good situation.
I mean, it's interesting that maybe 95% of society out there may look at that as a detriment or a character flaw. And I'm thinking, the issue is that to do what you're doing, though, you have to have that. You can't operate, you can't be a CEO with an employee mentality. I mean, you can't be an effective one, because
no, it's a job that I know how to do better than any other job. Because so to your point, like, I just sort of, I kind of, my whole thing the whole time, why do you think you're smarter than somebody else? And I don't think I'm smarter than everybody. There's just certain times when I have a strong opinion. And what I've learned over my life is, again, I don't have a strong opinion on everything. Most things I don't have a strong opinion on. But when I do have a strong opinion, my experience, and this sounds so, I don't know, egotistical or whatever, it's like, it's better to just do what I say, because I'm right most of the time. I'm not right 100% of the time I have a strong opinion, but I'm right most of the time, and I'm decisive about it. And so we'll find out whether I'm right or wrong quickly, rather than debating it. And that's so for me as a CEO, it's a useful skill, because I can figure out where do we need debate and where do we not need debate, because and if I'm sure people that have a problem with that leadership style, and hopefully those people will find a leader that they collaborate with more effectively. But for me, I understand the job of the CEO pretty well. I'm a pretty good communicator. I understand you're supposed to set the vision. You're supposed to hire people smarter than yourself, get out of the way, and make sure we never run out of money. And so that's what I do. Have
you kind of personalized your interaction with employees? Like, have you kind of said, I recognize myself in you right now, and you're not on a good path, brother. You're doing the eye roll. You're doing the
It's funny. You gotta be delicate, because even if I had said that to myself, I wouldn't want to it's all about, it's not about convincing your kid when you got him a red bicycle for Christmas or Hanukkah that they like it. Well, you have to make them believe it was their idea to get the red bicycle. And so you gotta make your team believe that they came to these realizations on their own, and you give them a little bit of a nudge. But I hire all of my executive team, except for one person, it's their first time being a VP. So I encounter that a lot early in their sort of executive career. The biggest mistake that you make when you're an executive reporting to somebody else is you think that it's like a math test. You think either I'm right or I'm wrong. And you're like, and that's not how it is. It's not about whether there's no right and wrong. This is why chess is such a bad metaphor for business, because chess always has a discrete correct answer. There's a math engine at play, and there's a bunch of different options, but there's a right move and a wrong move. But there's no right and wrong move in business most of the time. And being right doesn't really matter if everybody hates you and nobody wants to do what you're asking them to do. You need to be able to build consensus. You need to be able to take feedback, and you need to be able to acknowledge that sometimes you're going to get outvoted, and that's okay. And I deal with people like that all the time on my team, and I try to help them get where they want to go, because just like me, most of the time they're still incredibly valuable. You know, they're still very, very smart. I want their contributions, and I'm seeing that myself in them. I can tolerate it. It's not the end of the world. I'm just trying to nudge them along a little bit.
Well, nothing's wasted in our historic economy here. So in our personal economy of life. So it is, it's interesting to me that, this is kind of a serendipitous route you've taken to get to Pavilion, but just let's dive a little deeper into the platform itself. So what's its unique selling point? What's kind of the one line elevator sales pitch of, getting people to understand what they're getting into with Pavilion?
Well, I think I wish I had a better one-line elevator pitch. The point, I think, is in the modern world, all of our jobs are pretty lonely, and they're lonely because they're new and there's no formal job description and nobody knows how to do them. And you can't really read a textbook about how to do sales today or marketing today because it's changing by the day. So where are you going to go? How are you going to make sure that you have access to the new skills, the new techniques, the new knowledge? And also, by the way, the average tenure of all of our jobs is shrinking. I wasn't the only one, right? It wasn't just that I was everybody's getting fired. Everybody's changing jobs. We're in the middle of a bunch of layoffs right now, but even absent that, people are changing jobs. So you're going to be moving jobs every year and a half, 2 years. How are you going to have a career? At the end of 20 or 30 years, you're in your 50s or 60s. You want to make sure you got all the things that we read about in the newspaper, right? That you got a house, that you have wealth, that you're not scared, stiff, that you're not going to be able to pay your bills, that you've worked with people and built meaningful relationships, and you're not going to die alone. How do you increase the likelihood that all of those good things happen? And Pavilion is a platform designed to help you do that, to increase the likelihood that you achieve what you want to achieve from your career. So what does that mean exactly? How do we do that? Well, we built a community of 10,000 folks, and the community comes together to help each other. So first, there's a shared set of values. But then on top of that, we take all of these people, and we've got 3,000 of the 10,000 are the world's leading startup executives. And we build content, we build courses with them. And so we created this thing called Pavilion University. And so, like you said, LinkedIn learning on steroids, right? You take classes to teach you how to do your job across all of the different skill sets and functional areas that make up a go-to-market engine for a high-growth company. So sales, marketing, sales development reps, account executives, all of the people that are supposed to be responsible for the engine of revenue for a company, they need to be trained. And yeah, you can hire one-off trainers here and there, but isn't it better to have them enroll in the world's largest go-to-market university online and give them access to the world's best practitioners who will then teach them the skills that they need and mentor them at the same time? And so that's really, why would you join Pavilion? You'd join to get better at your job. You'd join because you'd have access to the world's leading practitioners. And you'd join because we're going to help you develop and train your team as well, so that you can rest assured, and when you sleep at night, that your account executives are getting training, your sales development reps are getting training, your marketers are getting training, all from famous people that that you've heard of. So that's
and practitioners.
Exactly. And one of the lines that we have, not just theorists, and I get, no offense to the Ivy League, but on my social media, I get ads from Columbia and from Wharton on, chief marketing officer. And they're not going to be able to teach me how to be a CMO at a startup. They don't know. Whatever they know is years old at this point. Maybe they can teach me some of the ideas behind being like CMO of Procter and Gamble, but that's not what I need to know. I need to know it's a 60-person company doing 10 million in revenue, and I need to know how to get it to 20 million before I get fired. Yeah. And that's what Pavilion can help you. That problem is what we're designed to solve.
So that what you described sounds like a learning platform, but I also could envision that it would be like a support community / network as well.
Yeah. So we call it community powered learning. That's what the category, and it's exactly that. It's a learning platform, but it's primarily live, taught by practitioners, and you take those classes in cohorts, groups of 10 to 15, like a study group, and you get to know people through your study group, and you get to take the classes and meet the instructors, and you also get access to the broader community. And of course, there's like layers of community. There's the people you take the class with, the people that you take the whole course with, the people that are all in Pavilion University, and all of the people in the broader global community. And again, the thing that underpins all of it, hopefully, which is the point of the book, to be honest with you, is a shared set of values.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the goal of the book, the goal of the business is the tip of the spear, the Trojan horse. You know, the reason you're going to open the door is because we're going to train you, right? But once we're in the door and when you're sitting in your living room, we're going to put kindness and compassion and spirituality and the values of the business. We're going to put those in your drinking water and we're going to put it in your food. And so before you know it, you're eating our donuts and you're sipping our lemonade, and you're going to emerge, hopefully, a nicer person, more likely to help your fellow peers in Pavilion and your fellow peers out in the world.
I mean, so we're going to have to go back to metaphor class here, because I think everything worked except the Trojan horse idea. So, yeah, it's like you're trying to slip me a Mickey here.
I'm trying to slip you a Mickey of
switch.
kindness. I'm trying to slip you a Mickey of kindness and compassion.
Oh yeah, I absolutely love the idea, and it's as I think about that, the idea of having, you know, kind of I love the idea of practitioners teaching, because it really is real time, because they're actually still doing, you know, the things that they're teaching. And it is so, you know, like you said, I mean, in a university setting, I mean, often the thing is outdated by the time it's taught, you know.
100%.
It's antiquated.
And also there's a cost infrastructure. You know, we have competitors. I mean, I guess Columbia is a competitor, right? I mean, they're much bigger and billions of dollars in endowments and all that stuff, but they've also got a business model predicated on selling people $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year subscriptions. You know, that's what tuition is.
Exactly.
And, you know, our stuff is a couple $1,000s a year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just also think we're disruptive in that way. I didn't set out to, you know, I don't really love the word disrupt. I'm not trying to be like this isn't
like the Uber of business education.
Yeah, exactly. This isn't like some fashion trend. But the reality is that, you know, college is really, really expensive. And the likelihood that you're going to learn stuff and be connected to people that actually know how to do whatever job you end up taking is low. Now, for UVA, you know, I went to the McIntyre school, the business school, and they put you on a track. And if you go into strategy consulting or investment banking or go to work at a hedge fund, like that's what they want you to do. And they will train you to do that. But they, you know, they wouldn't even, I've done some guest lecturing at McIntyre, and they won't even use the word sales. They don't like the word sales. They feel it diminishes the school. And so there's not that many schools that are actually teaching you the jobs that you're going to need to know how to do when you enter the workforce and try to be productive.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're part of the overall trend of helping people solve that challenge.
And especially on your own. I mean, the whole idea that you have, I mean, everything is sales, you know, everything is generating revenue at the end of the day.
100%. Everything is.
I'm curious about the kind of the output side of things, or the back end side of things. Is there a certification process? Is there I mean, are you accredited somehow, connected?
We're not accredited yet, but yeah, there's a certification process that you get. There's certificates of completion. And we're building. So the crazy thing about our business, because, you know, we're close to 20 million in revenue and 65 employees and 10,000 members. And if you said, okay, Sam, where do I go to log in? Tell you, well, there's nowhere to go to log in because we don't have our own platform yet. You're like, how did you build a $20 million business without having anything to log into? And I will say, I don't know. But so we're building our own platform, and that purpose of the platform will primarily be credentialization and kind of reputation development. You know, the same thing as getting certifications and different things that you want to, credentials that you'll put on your LinkedIn profile. We want to be an institution that people recognize. They already do. You know, we already hear from hiring managers, they prefer to hire Pavilion members versus non, because they know they're going to be trained and they know they're going to be invested in their own professional success. But we just want to amplify that a little bit, to your point. So what we're building is not just certification, but also leaderboards and rankings. And these are the top 10 students in Frontline Sales Manager School this semester, et cetera, et cetera.
Is there any partnership, joint venture model that you've thought of that says, you know, we're gonna partner with an employer that wants a specific skill set, and everybody that's trained through this particular course for that skill set is then fed into their kind of their pool of candidates?
Yeah, I mean, well, that's what our corporate membership business is. That's pretty. I think that we're still young, so there's a lot of exploration to do. I think where I thought you might be going is there's a very natural partnership opportunity with schools themselves, with, you know, universities and other places that are not teaching these disciplines or curriculum, but probably like to offer it as part of, or in some way, just as an augmentation of their core curriculum, just so they have an answer to how are you helping people, enter the world of startups, and this might be an answer for it.
Oh, I for sure. Although I maybe it's a completely different mentality on, how to educate the, I mean, I think you really are, you really are the tip of the spear. I mean, on this idea of, real time, effective, usable information that I can use tomorrow, on whatever you're trying to train. But what's been some of the hurdles that you've encountered? I mean, first of all, tell me when Revenue Collective started, and the transition to Pavilion. What was the kind of the impetus for that change? And since when, like when 2.0 started, when did that start, and what's been the change since then?
Well, Revenue Collective started in 2014, so 8 years ago, and it started. We changed the name to Pavilion a year and a half ago. We also announced a $25 million investment from Elephant Ventures, and it's been and this year, so why did we change the name? First, we changed the name because the words Revenue Collective first limited us, obviously, to revenue professionals. We don't just, it's not that we're serving a bunch of other people now. It's just that we want the option potentially to serve other people. And also the word collective is it's a little inward looking, it's a little defensive, right? It's like the idea of us versus them. And that's kind of where I was as a human being. I was pretty bitter getting fired all the time. So this was a club that CEOs couldn't join, and consultants couldn't join, and you couldn't join, and she couldn't join. And it was only for this particular group of people. And of course, that made it much more intriguing for a lot of folks. But when you want to grow, you probably have to look anew at some of those rules. But also, so where did Pavilion come from? I would love to say, I'm proud that we didn't hire a branding agent. It came from me on a run, because I run a lot, and thinking, I need a new word, and I need a word that speaks to openness and development and actualization. That's not about us versus them. It's just about the best you. And that's where I came up with Pavilion, and I saw, the ticker $PVLN on the NASDAQ, like in my head. And so we changed the name as a way of sort of like shifting the overall perspective, which really underscores, the book's called Kind Folks Finish First. And it's really about this journey of not being against anybody, just being for other people, actually, for yourself, for other people, helping people achieve their goals. So now a lot has changed, and this year has been the year of the biggest change. And so what have we learned? Well, we learned when it started off, it was even more EO, it was a dinner club for executives. And it was the category was called community. And what happens when you try to grow is that or what happened to us at least, is that turns out that community is a pretty gray category. Not quite clear what it means, not quite clear what you get from it. Like, what's the ROI? What's the tangible? And when you've got 30 years to build the organization, like YPO or EO, then maybe it doesn't matter. But if you're trying to grow quickly, it does matter, because people need to know what's in it for them. Why me now?
Yep.
And so we realized, and so it started breaking down, because everybody had their own idea about community, so they'd give it a shot because we have great word of mouth, and then it wasn't clear what they were supposed to do. And so we saw churn tick up this year, when we saw, just like many companies, facing economic headwinds. And we realized we needed to be just much clearer about what to expect. Like, what do you actually get? And so we distilled the value proposition this year, and we shifted it to community powered learning. And we said the heartbeat of the whole thing is learning, because everybody knows what it means to take a class online. And then we'll add amazing in-person events and small group get-togethers for executives specifically, and that will be the value proposition. And everybody knows what it means to go to an event and go to a summit and buy a ticket to a summit, and everybody knows what it means to take a class. And so that clarity of sort of product marketing, coupled with just better branding and clearer expectation management, we hope we are seeing leads to happier members and reignites our growth.
Who would you say is your biggest competitor? Direct competitor, or is there one?
There's not really. I mean, it's who's our biggest? LinkedIn Learning, maybe. Because I sometimes it's like, everybody's like, we don't have any competitors. Doing nothing is still the biggest One-off training companies are probably competition in terms of they're competing for professional development budgets. So
Yeah.
Miller Hyman and Korn Ferry and Sandler, those are, but it's such a big universe. It's such a big market. We rarely come
It
up head
is.
to head
Yeah.
against them.
Right.
So,
Right.
the biggest competitor is lack of awareness of what we do. That's like
Yeah.
the biggest impediment.
So as we kind of approaching the end of our chat today, I really want to kind of pick your CEO brain here. This is
Sure.
I mean, for all those that are a little further behind you on the journey, that either they've just launched something or they're sitting in their cube feeling trapped and or wanting to launch something. Give me one or two things that are just kind of one-liners that are you think are really germane that you have learned in the last few years about that are just kind of universal, universal truths about being a good CEO and really running a company well. Either things you learn, don't do this or do this. What are a couple of things that just really come to mind?
I could talk at length about this. So the first thing,
Here's
again,
the 500 things I did
yeah,
wrong. The first
so many things. Here's the number one thing I did right. You got to love your customers. You really do. It's not, obviously you need to pick a big market where you hopefully have lots of customers, and you need to build something that they care about. But how are you going to build something that they care about? It's not going to be it's not going to be Athena leaping from from whatever, fully formed, I think from the brain of the cracked head of Zeus. I could be wrong, but anyway, it's not going to, your idea will not be perfect upon when it comes to light. It will be improved based on feedback. And so if you care about your customers and you can really empathize with their problems and you're in it for them, not for you, then you have a chance of building something meaningful. I worked at companies where the founders were dismissive of their customers. They thought the engineers were the stars of the party, people building the software, and that their customers were almost foolish for not knowing how to use the software properly.
Yeah.
That perspective just doesn't work. It doesn't work because people know when you don't like them, and they can feel it, and they can feel your disdain, and it comes through in the product. And so it's really about, you gotta love your customer. You gotta love them, and you gotta think about them, and you gotta obsess about them. And if you do that, you have a good chance. The second thing I will say is, this is just a lesson that I honestly didn't believe this as strongly as I do today. And it sounds ridiculous, but nevertheless, talent is everything. And you're like, well, did you not believe that talent was everything before? No, I didn't. I thought I was such a good CEO, and that I was going to be the person that was going to give all of the discarded people of the world their best chance, and I was going to show that it didn't really matter, who was on the team, as long as the team was a good team that wanted to work together. And that's all true, but it still helps to have Steph Curry on your basketball team,
Yeah,
and Klay Thompson, and you can still build a great team. And but when you got Steph Curry on the team, it's better. And what you, especially now, especially with remote work, especially in the modern world, we can't tell what people are doing. I'm in a WeWork right now, and there's people watching TV, and there's people playing games, and they're on somebody's dime right now, and they're not doing anything. And you can't put in what God left out. You cannot create, you can attach existing intrinsic motivation to a goal, and you can activate motivation within people, but you can't make unmotivated people motivated, and you can't really make dumb people smart, and you can't make uncreative people creative. And so what happens, and especially at the leadership level, this phrase that that people have said, right? A players hire A players, and B players hire C players, and that is the truth. That is the truth. And when you have somebody that's pretty good but not great, and you let them run off and build a team, you better watch out, because there's a great risk of making a bunch of mediocre hires. And so the lesson this year for me at this company is talent is everything. And I'm proud to say that the group of people that we've got working on this problem, the 65 people that we've got working on this problem, I feel really, really good about these folks. These are, and that wasn't necessarily the case at the beginning of the year.
right.
Right. And so it's been, just be real careful about, and there are certain people that are right for a specific stage, and the business outgrows them, and that's understandable, but just everything you can do to bring the best possible people into the company.
That is such a great way to wrap up today. And I love that little phrase, that little bumper sticker you just, kind of rattled off there at the end, that you can't put in what God left out. I mean, what a great, I've done this for 4.5 years. I've never heard that phrase before. So what a great way to wrap it up. So, and Sam, thank you again for just taking time. You mentioned your book that's coming out. You said next week, I guess.
No, it's out this week. It came out on
this
Tuesday.
week.
Yeah. So it's called Kind Folks Finish First: The Considerate Path to Success in Business and Life. As anybody who knows me knows, I do anything for money, anything at all. So if you want to do a bulk order for your company or your customers, I can do in-person appearances. We can do book clubs. We can do all kinds of cool stuff. We're trying to get it on the bestseller list. But yeah, it's called Kind Folks Finish First. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere books are sold.
And the website is joinpavilion.com with 1 L.
Exactly right.
All right. When you said about where the idea came from, I thought you were going to talk about the UVA logo that kind of looks like a pavilion.
It does. Yeah, exactly.
The Jefferson Memorial or whatever.
The Jefferson,
there,
right? So, exactly. The lawn and and grounds.
There you go.
Maybe that was back in the back of my mind.
There was. That's right. That psychological influence there. So, Sam, thank you again. It's been a real pleasure talking to you and just hearing the story of Pavilion, and we'll just be anxious to kind of follow the track. I mean, you're funded now. It's the upward right hockey stick path that you got ahead of you. That is.
I hope so.
100% certain.
I don't. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Kevin. It's been great being on the show.
All right, Sam. Well, thank you again once for taking the time today and just once again playing your part in helping all boats rise in a rising tide. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thanks a lot.
Another episode in the books. We hope you heard some great takeaways. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review on iTunes and YouTube. As always, thanks for listening to Rising Tide.